Hello, history friends. Welcome to Great Talks at Gloria Dei. In this episode, Baroque cellist and music historian Eve Miller presents some of Johann Sebastian Bach's most beloved compositions. She plays and talks about the second and third suites, along with music of Supriani, Gabrielli, and Dall'Abaco. I'm Alice Reyes, and I serve on the Preserve All Suites Board of Directors. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Welcome to Gloria Dei Old Suites Church. If you've never been here before, I think you're really going to enjoy the experience. This church opened to the public on June 2nd, 1700, and it was built by a musician. So I'd like to think that that's why music sounds so great in here. So I'd like to welcome Eve Miller tonight for the proceedings, and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Thank you for coming. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the composers as we go along tonight, including Bach. So I've sprinkled in a couple of other composers, starting with Francesco Paolo Supriani. He's from Naples. He was a cello virtuoso and composer, and he wrote a cello treatise on learning how to play the cello, called Principles of Learning to Play the Cello, with 12 solo toccatas. So I'm going to play one of those toccatas tonight. This style is a sort of simpler style, simpler than the Bach and simpler even than the Gabrielli, and even though it's a little bit older, closer in time to us than the Gabrielli. Gabrielli's older. But it's very idiomatic to the instrument, and it begins to show the implied polyphony, which we later see fully developed in the Bach suites. So this idea of more than one line going on at the same time. So a toccata is a virtuosic free-form composition, and it comes from the Italian verb toccare, which means to touch. So touching. Something completely different. We're going to hear a Ricercar from Domenico Gabrielli's set of 7 Ricercari for solo cello. So Gabrielli is from Bologna, so another Italian, and he is also one of the earliest known cello virtuosos. His 7 Ricercari are from among the earliest extant works that were designated as solo cello, so not other bass instruments, so not bassoon or bass viol, but meant for this instrument. And they're also very, very idiomatic writing for this instrument, they begin to make a deeper use of that idea of implied polyphony, so different voices, moving even closer to how they're fully developed in the Bach suites. A richer car is another kind of free-form composition. It's been termed a precursor to the fugue due to the use of imitation, and also as a precursor to the sonata due to the development of distinct sections, which you'll hear a little bit in this piece. It comes from the Italian verb ricercare, meaning to search. So we have to touch, and now we have to search. And early examples, such as this one I'm about to play, have an improvisatory and very free and searching kind of quality to them. One other thing to mention about this, in the beginning of this ricercare, there are 3 whole notes, so long notes. And this happens again in the Bach prelude to the D minor suite, where you have dotted half notes, chords. This does not mean that you don't do anything with them. So as you'll hear, I do a little something with the whole notes at the beginning. Little improv, as it were. Gabrielli's pretty saucy, I think. Really fun to play. So now we get into the part of the program where I play a Bach suite for you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Bach suites in general, because it's good to maybe know a little bit about them. So the cello suites come from Bach's tenure in Cöthen at the court of Prince Leopold of Anhalt-Cöthen. And Bach was quite happy there for the most part. Leopold was a lover of music, and Bach had support and a lot of time to compose instrumental chamber music. I believe the prince was also Calvinist, so Bach didn't have to do a lot of religious music at that time, so he had time to do all the secular chamber music, solo music, things like that. He did, however, lose his first wife, Maria Barbara, rather traumatically while he was working there. He was away on a journey and came back to find that she had suddenly passed away in his absence. About a year later, he met his second wife, Anna Magdalena, who was a singer at the court in Cöthen, and she was often Bach's copyist, and the cello suites survive in her hand, which is really interesting. And I brought actually a little Xerox, so after the show, if you want to look at Anna Magdalena's hand, you can see that. So the characteristics of the suite are they generally start with a prelude, which is a sort of, again, an improvisatory feel, like these first two pieces that I've played. And then they're followed by sets of stylized dance movements. So what does that mean, stylized dance? So it means they weren't meant to be danced, actually. They retained the characteristics of the dance. Anyone who heard them would have been able to know, oh, I know what dance that is. But they were really meant, to be expressive instrumental pieces. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of affect. So affect was really important in the Baroque era. The idea that keys have different vibes or feels to them, like they have a different, something that they bring up in you. So for example, D minor, which is what I'm going to play next, the affect, and actually that I just played as well, the affect in the Baroque era, depending on the context, could be profound, serious, tender, devotional. So those are some of the ideas behind it. I wanted to talk a little bit about implied polyphony in Bach suites. I've been talking about that a lot tonight. But, cello is basically a solo line instrument, right? Like we can play some double stops and chords and things like that, but it's a single line instrument. It's not chordal like a guitar. You can't play multiple keys at the same time like a piano. So Bach uses the suites to really create this sense of more than one voice going on. So it's something to listen for as I play. And he does it through various techniques, such as chords, double stops, and through what's known as style brisé or broken style, which comes from lute technique. So this idea where, like if you've heard lute, and even in some guitar where the thumb is maybe plucking a bass line and the other fingers are doing another line. So Bach does that by sort of dividing the lines or breaking the lines within the melodic line. So you'll hear that a little bit as well. As I mentioned, Anna Magdalena, the Bach suites are in her hand. There's no Bach autograph of these pieces. Sadly. And Anna Magdalena's copy, as you see later, the articulations are quite hastily done, so they're kind of ish. There's another copy, Bach's copyist by the name of Kellner. Same problem, like they're very inconsistent, and there's a couple of other, I think, anonymous 18th century sources. But it's a real puzzle for cellists because you get you get to sort of parse, like, what does this mean? Am I supposed to slur all these? Am I supposed to break it up? Like, what am I supposed to do? So it's a really fun puzzle, and I find it's a big reason why I return over and over again to the Bach suites, because it's like, they change over time and morph, and what you want to do with them changes. So I just would talk a little bit about the Bach suites. They were popularized, they weren't known really until Pablo Casals sort of unearthed them again in the 1890s. They weren't played a lot, they weren't popular or well known. He popularized the suites through his own performances, beginning around 1901 to 1902. So he discovered them in 1890, but he said he took 12 years to study them before he was brave enough to play them in public, which kind of strikes terror in my heart a little bit, because I'm like, okay. But we think there were no recordings of these pieces, no one was playing them. He was literally digging in and trying to understand them and then presenting them to the world, right? So by the early 20th century, we see in Philadelphia newspapers an ad from March 1916. It says, April records, now on sale, Columbia, note the notes. New records for April. And on that it says, Casals interprets the prelude and saraband of Bach's cello suite in C major with a deep understanding of its beauty. So in the teens, we're getting recordings, just starting to get recordings from Pablo Casals. So I thought that was really neat. Okay, and with that, I'm going to stop talking and play some more for you guys. Thank you very much. So, before I do the final Bach suite, the C major suite, I'm going to play a little bit of Dall'Abaco, Joseph Marie Clement Fernando Dall'Abaco. Excuse me. He is an Italian cellist and composer. Let me find his music here before I get too far into it. Italian cellist and composer. He was born in Brussels, which was then in the Spanish Netherlands, and he was trained by his very much more famous father, Evaristo Dall'Abaco. He worked in the court of Cologne in his youth, and then later at the Philharmonic Academy in Verona. He seemed to do pretty well for himself. He was named, I think, like a duke by some other king and had an estate, and he died on his estate near Verona at the ripe old age of 95. So good long life there. He wrote over 40 cello sonatas. No one plays these anymore. I've played a couple with a friend of mine, and they're quite wonderful. And then he has these 11 capricci for solo cello. And though he lived well into the classical era, he continued to compose in the earlier Baroque style. So he never sort of made the transition into sort of classical style. Let me see if I can find the music here. It's somewhere in my books. I find that piece quite romantic in some way. I don't know. It has a little bit of like Spanish feeling, flamenco-y, but in a sad kind of dark way. Thank you for humoring me. So now we get to Bach's C major suite. Oh, if I can make it. Can we do it? Yes. So the C major affect, so we talked about affect before, is purity, simplicity, and joy. I read in some places direct joy, and I thought, this is great. This is what we need. So one of the first performances of the Bach suites in Philadelphia was the C major suite. It was programmed on a concert of the Flanzali String Quartet, which a friend of mine is doing a lot of research on this string quartet, on March 18th, 1914. And was performed by their cellist. So from the Philadelphia Inquirer announcing the concert, this is a couple days before the concert, this is March 15th, 1914, it says, among the 6 superb suites for solo cello written by Bach during the Cöthen period, rich in chamber music and instrumental works, the third in C major is perhaps the most interesting and appealing. I'm sure many cellists would be like, I'll debate you, I'll arm wrestle you on that, right? In spite of the fact that the 6th has the distinction of being one of the few works composed for the viola pomposa, an instrument between a viola and a cello which Bach had invented. Hilariously, I think none of that last part is true. I think this writer was trying to show their sort of erudite, chops, but not true. The 6th suite could have also been played on a 5-string piccolo cello, probably most likely, or the viola or cello da spia. And Bach certainly did not invent the viola pomposa. So it's just kind of an interesting little side note. So I thought I would leave you with a quote from Pablo Casals, because it's amazing to me that he's first performing them in public in 1901, 1902, and by 1914, the Philly Inquirer is saying among the 6 superb suites, right, for solo cello. So it's kind of amazing turnaround in just a decade, basically. So a little quote from Pablo Casals, which I found quite moving. So he says, "For the past 80 years, I have started each day in the same manner. It is not a mechanical routine, but something essential to my daily life. I go to the piano and play 2 preludes and fugues of Bach. I cannot think of doing otherwise. It is a sort of benediction on the house. But that is not its only meaning for me. It is a rediscovery of the world of which I have the joy of being a part. It fills me with awareness of the wonder of life, with a feeling of the incredible marvel of being a human being." Amy, do you have an announcement?
Yes, so please join us after the concert in the hall. We've got cake and wine, and you'll get to coffee. So please follow us out.
Can we ask you questions about your cello and stuff?
Sure, yeah.
So, you notice you don't have an engine on that.
Yeah, this is a Baroque cello, so gut strings, Baroque bow, no end pin.
Wow. So, it's not a genuine 16700.
This cello was made around 1708 in what is now the Czech Republic, was then Bohemia. It has a fake Italian label in it, though. Yeah.
So, on the telescope, that's not.
Yeah, the bow, so rather than the curvature being this way like a modern bow, it's more like a bow and arrow kind of thing, which gives it a lot of bounce and presence. It's more alive in the hand than a lot of modern bows, where it sort of feels the same most of the way across. With a Baroque bow, when you draw it across the string, it has a bounce to it.
Is that why you're kind of like holding it slightly different than?
Yeah, you hold it, the balance point is different, so you hold it a little higher up. Very observant. Yeah.
Great Talks at Gloria Dei is sponsored by the historic Gloria Dei Preservation Corporation, also known as Preserve Old Swedes. We support the preservation and restoration of Philadelphia's Gloria Dei Old Swedes Church and its graveyard. All of our projects and endeavors are made possible by the talent and dedication of our board of directors. To learn more about our organization and how you can support our efforts, please visit preserveoldswedes.org. We'd like to thank our guest, Eve Miller, for this wonderful performance. Eve is the founder and artistic director of The Public Pleasure. The Public Pleasure performs repertoire heard in early American concerts, salons, and homes on period instruments. Programs are based on research, utilizing contemporary sources such as programs, newspapers, magazines, journals, diaries, financial records, first-hand accounts, music publications, and letters. To learn more, visit thepublicpleasure.com. We are grateful to the Philadelphia Funder Collaborative for the Semi-Quincentennial for sponsoring this podcast episode. They support Philadelphia area programs celebrating the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. To learn more, please visit phila2026fund.org. We'd also like to thank our program sponsors. Queen Village Neighborhood Association offers grants to support neighborhood projects like our Spring 2026 concert series. To learn more, visit qvna.org. Additional support was provided by Bergman Family Foundation. Finally, production support for this podcast was provided by PhillyCam. PhillyCam is a community media center committed to teaching, creating, and distributing locally produced media content on cable television, FM radio, and online. To learn more, visit phillycam.org.